As you know, Hungary has become kind of the role model for the GOP. Viktor Orban, the dictator of Hungary, has come to the United States on a number of occasions to speak to Republicans. He's been embraced at the White House. He spoke at CPAC down in Texas a year before last, as I recall. One of the things he said at CPAC is you need to create your own media like I did in Hungary. You see, in Hungary, all the independent media is out of business. The ones that persisted in the face of Orban, he sued into bankruptcy, and others he simply had his oligarch buddies buy. And so now all the television, all the radio, all the newspapers, all praise Orban all day, 24/7, 365. That was one of his pieces of advice. Another one of his pieces of advice was, get your judges, right? Evict or impeach or replace or intimidate judges who stand up for the rule of law, and just have judges who will go along with whatever the emperor says. Another one of his pieces of advice was identify a minority group that you can harass and that you can vilify, that you can demonize, and use that for political power. In fact, pass laws to hurt that minority group if you possibly can. It worked very well for Hitler in Germany for years with the Jews and the Gypsies and the mentally retarded or mentally disabled. And, it's go for it was Orban's message, basically. And now, this week, I think it was yesterday, might have been the day before, Hungary passed a constitutional amendment. Now, keep in mind, a couple of years ago, Orban actually got a brand new constitution for Hungary that would pretty much guarantee that he gets to be emperor for life. Even though there's an election coming up and the polling shows that Orban's going to lose the election, I'll bet $50. Well, I don't bet, but I would bet just about anything that Orban wins that election. Why? Because he's practicing voter suppression. He's kicking people off. He's learned how from the Republican Party here in the United States. In the parts of Hungary where the anti-Orban sentiment is strongest, which tends to be the big cities, they're preventing people from voting, or they're figuring out reasons not to count their vote and making it harder to register to vote. And they've essentially gerrymandered the entire country in a way that guarantees that the parliament is always on Orban's side. But now what they've done with this new constitution of theirs is they just amended it to make it a crime, an imprisonable offense, to show up in public in support of the queer community. Now, Budapest is a pretty cosmopolitan city. I don't know if you've ever seen the FBI International show on TV. I think it's CBS. But, it's based out of Budapest. And you get to see what the city is. I've been to Budapest. In fact, my best friend Jerry and I were in Budapest the week that the wall fell at East Germany, and this wave of East German refugees or whatever just, was coming into Hungary. I mean, it was suddenly, hey, we can travel, let's go someplace. And it was kind of a wild time. It was right around the time that Orban was climbing to power, frankly. Just a few months after we were there, as I recall, in June, and in August of that year, Orban gave his big speech, his big anti-Russia speech that catapulted. He was a lowly member of parliament at the time. He was in his 20s at that time. This was in the 90s. In the early 90s. And so anyway, he has, ahead of the vote, protesters attempted to blockade the entrance to the Parliament parking garage. Justin Spike writes for Associated Press News. Police physically removed the demonstrators who had used zip ties to bind themselves together. This is a child protection law. This is the rubric that they're using, which is like, Republicans love to use that kind of stuff here in the United States, too, against gay people. I started to say, Budapest is one of the, it's one of the great cosmopolitan cities of Europe, historically. It's just a beautiful, beautiful city. And they have this annual gay pride parade. It's been going on for decades. And it's become a big deal. It's become kind of like Mardi Gras in New Orleans. I mean, it's a really big deal. Well, it just got outlawed. It is now officially against the law. And the new law, or the new amendment to the Constitution, allows the government to use facial recognition tools to scan anybody who shows up for this year's Pride Parade and then explicitly go after them. The fine for violating this law is 200,000 Hungarian forints. It's about $550. And, you know, you can lose some rights as a Hungarian citizen. I mean, you know, terrible things can happen to you. David Bédó is a lawmaker with the opposition Momentum Party. And he said before the vote, he said, for the past 15 years, Orban and his party have been dismantling democracy and the rule of law. And in the past two or three months, we see that this process has sped up. The new amendment also states that the Constitution only recognizes two sexes, male and female, which makes it against the law for same-sex couples to adopt children, because every family that does adoptions under the law in Hungary must have a mother and a father, and they must have been born female and male. A Hungarian lawyer, a fellow by the name of Dobrenti, says this is a clear message to transgender and intersex people. He said it's definitely and purely and strictly about humiliating people and excluding them, not just from the national community, but even from the community of human beings. And this is the 15th time that Orban and his party have amended the Hungarian constitution since that new constitution was passed in 2011.